So, Battlefield Hardline is out, but is it any good? Hardline was developed by Visceral Games, the same people who made Dead Space. Hardline is pretty different when compared with other Battlefield games, and instead of shooting Russians or terrorists, you'll be playing as either criminals or the police, with modes that feel like they were taken straight out of an action movie. I'll go over the modes in a little, but first I'm going to go over some basic things. First, the graphics. Now to me, graphics don't really matter as much as gameplay, and so hopefully you don't piss yourself over the 720p on Xbox One and the 900p on PS4. Both do run at 60 frames per second, which was the same case for Battlefield 4. And of course, C is always the best option to go with if you wanted your game to look pretty. And for those wondering, Hardline is still using the Frostbite 3 engine, and while I've heard some complaints about it, I really don't see it as a glaring problem. Unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure of the resolution on Xbox 360 and PS3, just know that they won't be as high res as the next gen consoles. And I'm pretty sure you could Google the resolutions, just want to throw that in there in case someone was wondering. Next is gameplay, and I'm going to keep this section pretty brief because if you played a Battlefield game or any shooter recently really, you can expect all the things like aiming down the sights and sprinting and all of that. In Singleplayer, you can't really just run into battle with a squad and expect to win. A large majority of it actually requires some thinking and sneaking around. For multiplayer, you can expect to encounter enemies pretty quickly, and instead of having to run across an entire map only to get killed and having to do it again. It strikes a good balance between the older Battlefield games and the run and gun pace of Call of Duty. So I'll be honest, I played the Battlefield 4 campaign, but all I can remember is some Chinese chick and the other guy, and there were some bad guys, and then she sacrificed herself to blow up a boat. Hardline's campaign took me 6 hours to complete on the normal difficulty, and while it's not a particularly long time, the story is much more thought out than previous Battlefield games. Instead of stopping some end-of-the-world crisis, you play as Nick Mendoza, a cop who gets caught up in some crazy shit while working in Miami. The story might not be winning awards anytime soon, but I liked it because it deals with the hot topic of police corruption, the drug war, and even basic morals of good and bad. You still probably won't care too much about these characters, but at the very least, the story is more coherent and relatable. Don't worry though, if you think that because you're not some super soldier that there won't be explosions, think again. Things explode just because sometimes, and what fun is a Battlefield campaign without that? Next is multiplayer. This is the real selling point that any shooter has these days. Battlefield Hardline doesn't have as many game modes as other Battlefield games, though the basics such as Team Deathmatch and Conquest make their return. Like I said before, the other modes that are included seem to be taken straight out of an action movie. First, we have Blood Money. Think of Capture the Flag on crack. In Blood Money, there's a pile of money in the middle of a map where both cops and criminals will have to collect some cash and then bring it back to their vault or their base. You can also steal from the other team's vault, making things even more hectic. Next is Rescue. This mode is similar to other modes that have been in other games already. You're in a team of 5 and are either defending the hostages as the criminals or rescuing the hostages as the police. The cool thing about this is that everyone only has one life, so it makes things pretty intense sometimes. Next is Crosshair. In this mode, cops will be escorting a VIP while the criminals try to eliminate him. Like Rescue, you only have one life and you also have teams of 5. The VIP is player controlled, so there has to be some coordination between you and the rest of your team. Or not. You can probably just wing it. That usually works. So you can't have a game with police and criminals without having heists in the game. If you play Payday 2 or Grand Theft Auto's Heist, then you know what you're getting into. The heists in here aren't really as in-depth as either of those games, as it tends to play more like one flag CTF, but teams will still have to use coordination to get it done. Criminals win by getting the loot to a drop-off area, and cops can win by either eliminating all the criminals' tickets or holding them off for 15 minutes. Hotwire is a version of the classic Conquest mode with a fun twist. The points that need to be taken are vehicles, and you can only score points on them if you're driving fast enough. I personally enjoy this mode because it puts a really great spin on all those territory modes that we've played for years. So you won't be driving tanks or flying jets this time around. Instead, things will be kept mostly on the ground or in helicopters, giving a different feel to the game. It makes it feel a lot closer and faster paced, which, while not terrible, may feel too different for returning Battlefield players. There are also a slew of new items, such as a grappling hook, a zipline, and a taser, just to name a few. Just a side note, the taser is cool, but you probably shouldn't use it because it's not so great when 5 people turn the corner and you can only stun one of them. The classes are essentially the same as other Battlefield games, just with different names. So I made a great chart in Microsoft Paint to show you. They do the same thing as in previous games, so the medic will be reviving your teammates, the professional will provide sniper support, the mechanic can repair vehicles, and the enforcer is the tank of the team. So I personally think that the fun factor and replayability value of a game are some of the most important things to consider when getting it. Hardline takes a pretty big turn from traditional Battlefield games, but that said, there's a lot of fun to be had in this game. From the classic Conquest to the new Hotwire mode, Hardline has a lot to offer, but just maybe not for those who like the bigger scale of the Battlefield games. And there are still those moments in multiplayer where you just have, you just go, holy shit, just because something happens or something explodes for seemingly no reason. For replayability, the single player actually does have a lot to offer. There's lots of extras and secrets to find. There's lots of exploration in it, surprisingly. And for multiplayer, you can expect everything from a shooter these days. You have the lots and lots of leveling up and just a bunch of things to unlock. So is Battlefield Hardline worth buying? Personally, I like the pace the multiplayer moves at. It's not so much Call of Duty, crack-filled, jetpack flying, drop shot pace. But at the same time, it's not so much the larger feeling of Battlefield games from the past, where games can take up to 30 minutes sometimes. For those coming back expecting maps like Caspian Border or Siege of Shanghai and wanting to fly jets or drive tanks, you have to hold on to Battlefield 4 for a little while longer, as Hardline will probably disappoint you. However, if you wanted a game that moved faster with closer encounters, while at the same time maintaining some elements from past Battlefield games and mixing in new elements at the same time, consider picking up Hardline. There's a lot to enjoy here and enough content to provide a lot of fun and entertainment.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.